A very good evening. Thank you so much for keeping it right here at Uganda Tourism Consultants. I'm very, very happy to have you all at this session. Well, we want to have a good ending and, of course, a good beginning for 2026. We are almost wrapping up 2025, a year of tourism business. And I'm sure you've done so much in this year. For those that have um, grown in sales, that's a good one. For those that have grown in terms of service delivery, in terms of organizational structure, that's a plus, right? So, how have you? How are you concluding 2025? I've always talked about preparations, and I want to say it again. It doesn't matter whether you've made less revenue this year. What matters is what have you learned? What new additions have you probably gathered around you? It could be you've had a chance to network, you've had a chance to learn something new. To me, that is the most important thing. For those that have been in business and you've actually done a lot, let's look at customer satisfaction levels. Have you been able to deliver that well? I think to me that is the most important thing that we must focus on in growth and in our tourism business. Um, as of now, as we wrap up 2025, of course, we reflect on so many things, and I'm sure majority of you have had your end of year company meeting sessions where you reflect on sales, you reflect on performance, you reflect on achievements, milestones, and of course, key failures, things that you'll be able to address into the upcoming year 2026, right? And by now, you should be finalizing your action plan for 2026, things that you probably bound to action on in January, in February, and in March. Of course, things might change, as we all know, right? So 2026, of course, in Uganda here, we are still in our political season. You know, we are voting on the 15th, if not forgetting on the 15th of January. The aftermath of the elections, we all pray and we keep our fingers crossed because, as you all know, it never ends so well, especially in regard to tourism as a business. Largely it becomes very, very affected. Hopefully, of course, we are aware. Um, Without internet, tourism business becomes hard um, to manage. You know, you can't work without internet. So communication wise, of course, we may have some hindrances there, and we pray to our government. Why switch off internet anyway? Eh, Lots of business now survive in this era. In this era, 9 out of 10 businesses run on internet. So a switch off uh, from internet will probably make so many businesses do what? Um, get down. Of course, tourism being number one. Um, Other than elections for presidents and other political positions, uh, we hope tourism will remain. You know, things will be better. That's what we all looking forward to. But of course, we have businesses as early as January, February, throughout 2026. But January will definitely determine how things will probably fare, um, progress throughout the 2026. If all goes well, of course, our sales will double, triple um, for 2026. But if things don't go well, you know, of course, we expect things like travel bans will be imposed. You know, travel insurance will go high for visitors coming to Uganda. And of course, they will definitely choose other destinations. Well, that's not our point of discussion today. Today we have a very interesting topic. as we prepare for 2025 wrap up and we are almost getting into 2026, we want to discuss something very pertinent, right? And we want to look at minimizing costs for our tourism businesses in 2026 and maximizing revenue in 2026. Now, these two things are complements. It is very hard to separate. If you want to maximize revenue, you must keep your costs down. You see? So, this is a big message or a bigger message to all tourism business entrepreneurs. Our bigger focus should be, like any other business, entrepreneurship or business owner, your focus should be largely on maximizing revenue. But it is very tricky that you cannot in any way maximize revenue while your costs are over the bar. So we have to minimize costs at all levels. And this is what we want to look at. We want to give you some key takeaways as we step into 2026, because this is our biggest target. I assume you have a 1 million sale target. Someone is looking at 2 million. Someone is looking at 5 million sales. And we have companies that are probably doing as big as $10 million sales in a given year. But how do we get there anyway? It's either minimizing costs. You see? So we're going to take you through about 10 key takeaways on how to minimize costs in the upcoming year, because this really impacts on our operations so hard, right? And you find even the little profits that you're making will definitely disappear. So as we step into 2026, our key target is to maximize and be able to hit our revenue sales target. Are you setting $2 million? Are you looking at $3 million? Or probably 4 million or 5? Could be $10 million. The only way you can achieve that is at least lower your operational costs and be able to maximize revenues. So and probably it will help us in terms of diversification. Savings, you raise more savings and then you grow in terms of investment. Otherwise, you cannot invest or diversify in any way if you are unable to raise more revenue, right? And one way to do so is by cutting costs. So we want to look at all these. There are so many, but at least we guide you on how to, as a key step as we approach 2026. So to start with, and I would be very quick here. One, we have to renegotiate with suppliers. We either sit down with our suppliers and try to renegotiate rates. The suppliers are very many in this case, and every tourism business, you may have suppliers. For tour operations businesses, of course, if you have a current or partner, you can sit down with this person. We've got domestic flight operators. We've got also international flight operators. You can sit down with these people. We've got hotels in this case. I have always told you that you can find two different companies feeding a particular hotel, but on different rates. Probably someone is paying $200 for a similar room category that you're paying $300. So if you can sit down and renegotiate these rates, and people are willing to do so, right? So many people are willing to sit down with their suppliers, with their business partners to renegotiate these rates. So if you can do so around this time and probably early January, it will help you probably cut costs and will also help you see how you can raise more and maximize more revenues, right? Then point 2 here, we look at draw and run on a budget and be able to stick to that budget. It's very important. Now, I realize that most tourism business entrepreneurs have no budgets whatsoever. As you approach a given year, remember in one of our tutorials here, you can probably look at it in one of the videos that we've asked you to be able to know your average monthly expenditure. Things like your office rent, things like your staff salaries, your tax, you bundle them in 1 month. And if you want to know your budget in a given year, it's a matter of uh, times the number of months you have. So you have an estimate of that, right? Other than avoiding, you have no budget whatsoever that you're going to be running on, and in the end, you won't be able to minimize costs. So reflect on the monthly budget. How much do you spend on internet in a month? How much do you spend on power? How much do you spend on salaries? How much do you spend on office or stationery? How much, etc. All that. And in other words, you'll be able to know your budget in a given year. How much do you spend on online marketing? How much do you spend on advertisement, on printing, on, all that. And you can ask your relevant department, could be your finance, to raise that budget, and you'll be able to understand them. So running and sticking to the set budget will help you probably minimize costs. And in the end, of course, you'll be able to maximize or realize more revenue, right? Our point 3 here is target a niche market. Now, by targeting a specific market that works for you, other than appealing to everyone, chasing everyone, which is very hard anyway. So by looking at a specific market, one, you're going to optimize your resources. You will need less resources to target that market or to access that market target. For example, I'll give you, if you're a tour operator and whatever show or road show that comes before you, because you're looking at, attending every market, you will end up spending more. And our agenda here, as we step into 2026, we are looking at how do we minimize costs. So focus on a particular niche market. That's very key. And be able to find clients that appeal to your products, and probably be able to adequately provide specific products for that market. You see? And in the end, of course, if the right products given to the right market, the consumption of your products will go high, and thus more revenues. I hope I am very clear. The best thing to do as we approach 2026 is to minimize costs for your tourism business and be able to maximize revenue. That's the ultimate of it all, right? So let's look at training your staff. How does training your staff help you to minimize costs? First of all, costs can be waste of time, right? Because your staff, they are not trained, they are not professional in doing something. So they are going to waste a lot of time, and in the end, time is money. We all know that, right? So if you want to minimize costs, train your staff. And after training your staff, as we all know the advantages of a trained. First of all, a trained staff will improve service delivery, timely service delivery in terms of on point, accuracy levels. So in other words, you expect more in terms of quality, in terms of revenue generation, in terms of everything. So when you have a trained staff, of course, you'll have more in terms of revenue being generated. So start with training your staff, or bring consultants to refresh. There are so many things that are changing. in tourism as a business. So let them have more knowledge on key things anyway. It's very important and it will help you in maximizing revenue. At the same time, probably minimize costs. Adopt technologies. There are so many technologies that have come up in tourism, you know, invoicing, itinerary development technologies, things that can help you in service delivery, record keeping, right? But in as far as I know, we are still stuck in the traditional way, which is not right. There's a lot of technology in this era. Adopt this technology. Have your team enroll on these technologies. That will probably help you in efficiency, that is very key, and in service delivery. Anything that promotes efficiency and service delivery is bound to increase revenue, right? So think about it. Otherwise, I know of companies that would be by now raising more than $4 or $5 million a given year in sales revenue. But it is impossible because it takes them ages to do something using the traditional means. You know, people are still stuck with old way of doing stuff. So the advancement and the introduction of new technologies is here, and I would ask people to join, you know, to adopt these new technologies, and probably you're able to minimize on costs. Of course, technologies has or requires less input and the output is really high, right? Okay, let's look at increasing flexibility in pricing. You know, tourism is seasonal and you must be very flexible in pricing and also in securing bookings. I think we've talked about flexibility in so many ways. When it comes to tour operation, flexibility can be in reduced deposits. It can be in deferred payment. It can be in minimizing financial loss to any clients. So, do you see that you can actually get more money when you reduce deposits of your clients to given safaris? So many people will be asking 50%. You can start by asking 20%. Of course, someone would come where they are reduced deposits. Of course, deferred payment. In this case, you don't take a bigger payment now, but you say, okay, 15 days or 7 days to your safari, this is when you, in other words, you give your clients more time before they settle their final payment. To them, it works, and to any other person. So these are some of the strategies that you're looking forward to consider when you're trying to secure these bookings. And also in pricing, you see, if you have a bigger group, of course, you lower your margins. It becomes more flexible. You know, we have seasonal, you know, pricing. Can you apply that? In one way or the other, you'll be able to raise more and more revenue. Okay, seasonal offering. Can we launch this? As we all know, we've got given months where we have low season rates. So what are you doing as a tourism business entrepreneur? Can you think about giving lower rates, giving deals or discounts within specific months? You see? And this is going to help you probably raise more revenue, right? And you step forward. And even with your suppliers, I'm sure they will give you lower rates within particular seasons. So be able to have travel deals, travel discounts, or safari deals with specific months, within specific months. So that you can be able to, otherwise, don't keep your bars high during, still even in low season or high season, you can see how you can be as flexible when it comes to seasonal offerings. And our point 8 here as one way how we can minimize costs and prepare ourselves to save a lot of money in 2026 so that we can make huge investment. As we all prepare for long-term success, we have to use part-time, or freelance staff, or you work remotely. I think around COVID time you saw that people were working from home. Do you know that you can have 5 people working with you, but none comes to your office, right? Around this time, you may not need an office. 2026, 2027, you can operate. You either have freelance staff, people that work part-time, 4 hours a day. As long as it works out. And they can be working remotely. In other words, why would you need a bigger office to go and you're paying $1,000 or more in town or anywhere, and you can have a very cool desk wherever you are. You have your team working remotely. You can convene on a conference call, on a Zoom meeting, and you have things all dusted, right? So in that way, you'll be able to minimize costs. And in the end, trust me, whatever sales targets that you have set for 2026, be it 2, 3, 4, 5, or $10 million, will be achieved. Cool. Tax compliance. As you all know, we cannot do business without being tax compliant. We must pay tax. And here you have to pay tax in time. And what are the benefits? The benefits of paying tax or being tax compliant are really enormous. There are so many. But I want to pick one thing. In avoiding penalties and fines, you can be making money and you fail to pay tax in real time. And then, of course, penalties will accumulate, right? And there is a lot to pay. It's income tax, whatever, NSSF for your employees, value-added tax. But these have got deadlines. In whatsoever country that you're operating in, you must be tax compliant. And this is going to help you save a lot without paying penalties and fines. Otherwise, no matter how much money you'll be making, if you cannot minimize costs through being tax compliant as a tourism business entrepreneur, it might affect you because the fines are really, really hefty. So be tax compliant, guys. As you prepare 2026, the big question is, have you already filed your income tax returns for this year? It's very important. Before 31st of December. If you don't do so, of course, wait for the fines. And the penalties will be able to reduce on your sales revenue or your sales, whatever, your profits. And here we're saying, how do we step into the next year? See, of course, we have so many things that have failed us this year. And we are saying, can we correct them? And top on our agenda is, how do we maximize revenue? But at the same time, we have to minimize costs. And lastly, if you're a starter, this is very important. I've had this year so many people coming to me, Idris, I want to start a tourism business. Idris, I want to do this. 100% you're right. Start now. And I've always advised people, tourism is everyone's business, right? You don't have to be a tourism professional. No, start now. As long as you have a professional coach, at least to guide you here and there. But look, if you're starting, start with low salaries for your staff so that you can be able to break even. Otherwise, I know of a company that indeed collapsed because of paying over. I'm not saying do not reward your staff that really qualifies. Start with a low pay for your staff or low salary for your staff. This is strictly for beginners. At least you can be able to break even at a given point so that you can see how the situation is and be able to at least increase over a given period of time. And that will help you be able to minimize the costs. Of course, salaries are part of the fixed costs that you'll have to incur every now and then in a given month. And remember, you've not that probably getting a lot of business to enable your company run seamlessly. The only strategy you have to do is to have a lower pay for your staff. Then over time, you upgrade. You go on adding as you watch your company performance. Right. I hope, guys, you've learned something today. As we step into 2026, it's a very big thing for you to be able to minimize. It's a top agenda. Make it your top agenda, and I'm certain 2026 will be a very brighter year. We want to pray that the political season ends peacefully and things will be as normal as we all wish. Otherwise, do not forget, follow us on our social handles. We are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on LinkedIn, and of course, subscribing to our YouTube platform for these and more learning tutorials in as far as starting, running, managing, and growing your tourism business. I want to say thank you so much. Of course, we'll come back to say Happy New Year, all that stuff. But I think I can't wait to see you in our next video, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.